Picture this. It is 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night. You are sitting at your kitchen table with your laptop open and a cold cup of coffee next to you. And you are staring at 12 browser tabs, each one a different AI tool you subscribed to in the last 6 months.
Jasper, Copy.ai, ChatGPT, Notion AI, an email assistant, a scheduling tool, a social media scheduler, data analyzer.
And you are exhausted. Not because you are not working hard enough, not because you are not smart enough, but because you have done everything right. You adopted the tools, you stayed current, you kept up, and somehow nothing actually changed.
Revenue is flat, you're still working the same hours, and now you have $400 a month in subscriptions and a creeping feeling that you are missing something everybody else has figured out.
And trust me when I tell you this from my own personal experience, you are not missing a tool.
You are missing architecture.
I'm Kim.
And I'm Hal.
And this is Small Business Big AI, the podcast where we stop playing defense and start building technology-enabled superpowers. Now, last week, we asked who controls the agent layer. And today, we are answering the harder question, the one that sits underneath all the frustration, all the tool fatigue, all the I know AI is supposed to help, but I cannot figure out why it is not. Today, we are talking about the difference between random adoption and deliberate architecture. And that difference is worth everything. Okay, so let me give you the number that started this conversation for me. 89%. That's 89% of small businesses are using AI in some capacity right now. Not testing, not curious about it, actively using it daily or close to it. Now, ChatGPT for content, scheduling assistants, email drafters, customer service bots, data analyzers. Adoption is everywhere. And here's the follow-up number. When you survey those same businesses and ask, has AI reduced your cost or improved your efficiency? 78% say yes.
Hold on.
Okay.
Because 78% report efficiency gains, that is not a rounding error. That's not a few early adopters. It's almost 8 out of 10 small businesses using AI is saying it's working. What exactly are we talking about here? Sounds like the story has a happy ending.
Well, that is what I thought too, Hal, until I started asking the next question. The question that nobody asked in the survey. Not did AI improve your efficiency, but by how much? Not did it help, but what specifically changed? Not do you feel more productive, but can you show me the numbers? And that is where it falls apart. Because when you push past the surface, when you ask for the actual evidence, most people cannot answer. They feel busier. They are using more tools. They are doing AI. But revenue did not move. Margins did not improve. They did not get meaningful time back. They just have more subscriptions and a vague sense that they should be further along than they are.
So they are confusing motion with progress. They are busy, they feel productive, but they cannot connect their AI activity to actual business outcome.
Exactly. And there is research that names this precisely. The competitive gap in 2026 is no longer adopters versus non-adopters. The gap is closing fast, Hal. The new gap, The one that is going to define winners and losers over the next 3 years is automation architecture versus random usage.
Automation architecture, okay. I want to make sure people understand what that actually means before we go any further. Because I think most small business owners hear architecture and they immediately picture an enterprise IT department, system diagrams, six-figure consulting engagements, 18 months of planning before anything actually happens. And if that is what architecture means, most of the people listening right now are going to tune out
Oh, no, don't do that.
because they don't have time for that. They are running a business today. What does architecture mean for the person running a 10-person shop?
Well, it means the difference, Hal, between collecting tools and building a system. And here's the thing, you do not need an IT department. You need clarity in about 3 hours. So let me show you what random usage looks like because I want you to hear yourself in this. You see a problem, you find an AI tool that claims to solve it. So you sign up. You use it for a few weeks and it kind of helps. Then you see another problem, another tool, another subscription. And 6 months later, you have got 12 tools. You cannot remember your login for half of them, and you are spending more time managing the tools than the tools are saving you. Now, that is random usage. You are reacting. You are collecting solutions to individual problems instead of building a system that solves for the business.
And the person doing that does not feel like they're being reckless. They feel like they're being responsive. Every time they add an additional tool, they were solving a real problem. It made sense in the moment.
Yeah, it made sense, but every single decision made complete sense in isolation. Now, that is what makes it so insidious. It is not one bad decision, it is 12 reasonable decisions that together create an unreasonable mess.
So, what does the alternative look like? Because I think people need to see both pictures clearly before they make a shift.
And that is exactly where we are going. And I am going to show you both pictures with the same person so you can feel the difference. Her name is Sarah. She runs a marketing agency, 11 employees, 6 years in, built it herself. And she is finally at the point where growth feels possible. Now, if she can just get out from under the operational weight. It's Friday, 4:37 p.m. She's reviewing the numbers. The team showed up this week. The chatbot responded. The proposal generator turned drafts around faster than ever. The dashboards updated automatically. On paper, everything improved. But they still missed the goal.
How? If the tools are working, the team is working, how do you miss?
That's exactly the problem. Nothing is visibly broken. Nothing failed, but the outcome didn't move. And when that happens, when effort increases but outcomes don't, leaders don't blame the system. They blame themselves. She's not thinking the automation is flawed. She's thinking, what did I miss?
Isn't that just ownership? Isn't that what good leaders do?
Yes, but ownership without clarity becomes self-blame. So what does she do? Well, she opens Slack. She cross-checks numbers. She reconciles two dashboards that don't quite match. She clarifies a client status that got stuck between sales and delivery. And she becomes the integration layer again.
So she automated tasks, but she's still the glue?
Exactly. She delegated activity, but she never redesigned the decision.
Hold on. That sounds like hindsight. In the moment, she's just trying to move faster. She's investing. She's implementing. She's doing what everyone says to do.
Yes, she's following adoption advice: add tools, increase speed, automate friction. But adoption optimizes motion. It doesn't automatically stabilize decisions. And here's where the pattern locks in, Hal. Every time outcomes lag, she adds something: another automation, another workflow, another integration. And every time something misaligns, it escalates to her
because she understands the whole picture.
because she never defined the picture clearly enough to remove herself from it. Now, different Sarah. Same industry, same revenue band, same team size, same pressure, same Friday, same missed number.
So what? She's smarter?
No, she's done. That's the difference. Instead of opening Slack, instead of troubleshooting the automation, she closes the laptop.
That sounds dramatic.
It's decisive because she realizes something uncomfortable. If everything worked this week and she's still reconciling on Friday, then the issue isn't effort, it's structure. So Monday morning, before she delegates anything new, before she adds a tool, before she tweaks a workflow, she asks one question: where am I still the glue? Where does this break without me? Where am I the escalation path instead of the architect?
And Sarah 1 never asked that.
No, she just kept automating around herself. And that is the difference between random usage and deliberate architecture. One of them is building a business, the other is building a dependency. Quick note before we go deeper: if this way of thinking about AI through leadership, not hacks, resonates with you, subscribe to Small Business Big AI on your favorite podcast app so you never miss what's coming.
Okay, but I want to push back because what you're describing, asking, where am I still the glue? Isn't that just a better execution discipline? Better awareness? Are you making this more complicated than it is?
It's not complicated, it's sequencing. And most small business owners get the sequence wrong.
What does that mean? The sequencing.
Well, they delegate before they define the decision. They automate tasks before they're clear on what business outcomes those tasks are supposed to move.
Give me an example, real one.
Okay, I'll give you a real one. You automate your proposal process. Great. Faster turnaround, less friction. But what decision were you trying to improve? Conversion rate, margin, cycle time, client experience? If you can't name that clearly, specifically, then the automation just increased activity. It didn't increase leverage.
So Sarah 2 didn't start with workflow mapping.
No, she started earlier. She identified the business outcome she needed to move, the decision that was fragile, the place where clarity was missing. Now, inside the impact framework, that's the first step: identify. And I want to be precise about what that means, because most people hear identify the goal and they think name the task. But that's not it, Hal. Identify the decision. Identify the outcome before you touch a single tool.
So the mapping came after.
Yes, because once the decision was clear, she could see where it was fragile, where information stalled, where context got lost, where she was manually stepping in, not because she wanted to, but because the system required it. And that's diagnostic mapping, not efficiency mapping.
What's the difference?
Well, efficiency mapping asks, how do we move faster? Diagnostic mapping asks, where does this break and why? Now, one gives you speed, the other gives you stability. And stability stability is what compounds. All right, here's the part that actually changes things. 3 steps you can do this in one afternoon. And I mean that. One afternoon. Not a 6-month transformation, but one afternoon and a piece of paper.
Before you say anything, I want you to give me the real version, not the lectured, clean version.
Okay, fair, but the real version, it can be a little messy.
That's the point. That's why it's real.
Okay, so I get it. No lectures. So let's get real. Step 1, I want you to draw the map. Not how you wish the business ran, but how it actually runs today, right now, including the parts that you're embarrassed about. How does a new customer find you? What happens first? What happens next? Where does it usually fall apart? Where does your team lose time? Where do clients have a bad experience and you find out 3 days later? I want you to write it down, all of it, end to end.
And I already know what people are thinking. I don't have time for that. I'm running a real business.
But you're already spending the time, Hal. That's the point. You're spending it on Friday afternoons cleaning up what didn't connect. You're spending it being the person everyone calls when something's off. And you're spending it just later under more pressure when it costs more to fix. You're not saving time by skipping the map. You're borrowing against it.
Okay, so the map isn't extra work. It's work you've already done, just done once, up front, instead of over and over in the fire.
And that's exactly it. And here's what happens when you actually do it. When you look at the whole picture laid out in front of you, the bottleneck becomes obvious. The steps that always takes 3 times as long as it should, the handoff where things always fall through, you already know where it is. You've just never looked at it from above.
It's embarrassingly obvious.
Every single time. Okay, now step 2. Figure out what to hand off and what to keep. So once you've got the map, go through every step and ask yourself 4 questions. Does this happen the same way every single time?
Repetitive.
Is it eating hours for work that doesn't need a human to think about it?
Time drain.
Does it break things downstream when it goes wrong?
Error prone.
And the one that changes everything.
What is it?
Does this moment actually need a human? Does it need someone who can read the room, pick up on tone, make a judgment call that can't be written down? And if the answer is yes, keep it. That is yours. That's where you belong in the process. And if the answer is no, you could write clear instructions for how it should be done. That's your first handoff.
And most people skip that filter. They automate based on, this seems like something AI could handle.
And that's how you end up with faster proposals going to clients who feel like they're talking to a robot. Speed without judgment isn't an upgrade. It's just faster damage. Now, step 3, fewer tools, same playbook. Pick 3 tools, maybe 5 if your operation needs it, but not 12, not whatever your team found this week. And then, this is the part nobody does. Teach everyone to use them the same way.
Why does that matter so much?
Because how right now in most small businesses, every person on the team is running their own version of the same tool. Your best person gets great results. Your newest person gets garbage. And you have no idea why, because there's no shared method. The recipe lives in one person's head.
And if that person leaves?
The recipe walks out the door with them.
So you're not just building a tool stack, You're building a system that works whether your best person showed up today or not.
And that's the shift. And what makes that possible is a shared protocol. In the impact framework, every delegation follows the same 6-part structure. You name the outcome you're after. You tell it what mode to operate in: drafting, analyzing, executing. You set the guardrails, what it can and can't do. You give it the context it needs so it's not filling in blanks with guesses. You define what right looks like before you review it, and you build in how to fix it when it's off.
So it's not about which tool you pick. It's about having a consistent method for talking to every tool.
Yeah, when everyone on your team uses the same method, your best results stop being a lucky day. They become the standard.
And I want to say something here because I think people need to hear it clearly. What you're describing: map the workflow, filter what to hand off, use fewer tools the right way. That's not a tech strategy. That's just good management. The same thing that makes strong human teamwork: clear expectation, defined roles, consistent methods, oversight on outcomes, not every single action. AI isn't different. It just requires you to actually write it down.
Because AI takes everything literally. Now, a good employee fills in gaps. They infer, they ask questions, but AI execute exactly what you gave it, which means if you're vague, you get vague back. If you're precise, you get precise back every time.
So the businesses that get sharp results from AI aren't using better tools.
No, they're given better instructions. And they built a system where every person on the team gives instructions the same way. Now that's architecture, not the word, the thing. Now, I want to take you inside what I'm building right now because I've been sitting here talking about Sarah, and I need to be honest with you. I was Sarah 1, but not for 14 months, but long enough to feel it. So when I started building my agency while producing this podcast, I was moving fast. I was solving problems as they showed up. I grabbed ChatGPT for content. I found a scheduling tool, added something for market analysis, picked up a communication tracker. Each one made sense. Each one solved a real problem in the moment.
And then what happened?
Well, lease negotiation. I'm sitting across the table from a landlord who has done this 100 times. I pull up what I think is my current market analysis, but it's 3 weeks old. So the agent running it hadn't refreshed since I set it up. I reference my timeline, but my timeline tool and my capacity tracker weren't talking to each other. So the timeline I'm quoting doesn't account for 2 projects that slipped the week before. Now, I have a communication log that was supposed to capture everything said in the previous conversation with this landlord, but it only captured the emails, not the phone calls. So I referenced something the landlord had already walked back 2 weeks prior in front of them.
So the AI didn't make you look sharp and prepared. It made you look like you didn't have a handle on your business.
In a negotiation with real money on the line. Now, that was the moment I stopped moving fast and started thinking about architecture. So I mapped my 3 core workflows for the agency. I identified exactly where I needed to hand something off and where I needed to stay in it myself. I standardized on a core stack and built impact as the method across all of it.
And what actually happened?
My payroll prep went from 2.5 hours to 40 minutes, and the errors went to 0 because the tool and the org chart are now pulling from the same place. My content for the podcast and LinkedIn is up, not because I added tools, but because the team is using one tool consistently instead of 3 tools inconsistently. And when I walked into the next lease conversation, I had one source of truth, every number verified, every previous conversation captured in full.
So you went from 3 tools creating chaos to fewer tools creating clarity.
Fewer tools, shared method, deliberate architecture. So one afternoon of mapping and a decision to stop adding and start building, that's the shift.
You know who else made that decision?
Oh, yeah, Sarah, too. She closed the laptop on a Friday. She didn't add another tool. She didn't troubleshoot the automation. She asked where she was still the glue. And then she went and removed herself from it. 6 months later, fewer tools, cleaner numbers, less time spent on Fridays being the fix. Not because she worked harder, but because she changed the sequence. Intent before delegation, decisions before automation. That's the difference between motion and progress. And it's available to every single person running a business right now, not someday, not after the next hire or the next quarter, but one afternoon, one piece of paper. That's all it took for Sarah, too. And that's all it took for me. Now, here's your challenge for the week. And I want you to actually do this, not just listen and nod and move on, but block 30 minutes. So get a piece of paper.
Write down your 3 core workflows, not your tasks, your workflows, end-to-end processes that create value in your business and ultimately create revenue. For most people, it is something like how a new customer finds you and becomes a paying client, how you deliver what you promise and get them to completion, how you get paid and stay financially healthy. Write those 3 down. Then for each one, find the bottleneck, the steps that reliably takes longer than it should, causes the most errors, or drains the most energy out of you and your team. You already know what it is. Circle it.
Then ask yourself one question about that bottleneck. I mean, is this something that requires genuine human judgment every single time? Or is it a mechanical process that just happens to currently have a human doing it?
If it's mechanical, if you could write clear instructions on how it should be done, that is your first architect moment. That is where you start, not by finding a tool, by defining the workflow and the parameters. The right tool will be obvious once you know what you actually need to do.
Because the businesses that build architecture now, before the pressure is unbearable, before the chaos is unmanageable, those are the businesses that scale without breaking.
And the ones that keep adding tools without building systems.
They will be sitting at a kitchen table at 11 p.m. with 12 browser tabs open, wondering why nothing is changing. And they will have bought 3 more tools since we started this recording. Now that's it for today's episode of Small Business Big AI. Thanks so much for tuning in.
If you are ready to stop collecting tools and start building architecture, if you want the protocols that make your AI stack systematic, consistent, and actually connected, that is exactly what the Impact Framework is designed for. It is the foundation that turns random usage into deliberate results. Find it in the show notes, www.smallbusinessbigai.com. The link is in the show notes.
And come back next week because we are completing this trilogy with the conversation that makes most people uncomfortable. Now, AI is not just a tool anymore. It is becoming a workforce. And if you are still thinking about it as software, then you are building for the wrong future.
Small steps lead to big changes.
Until next time, keep building your technology-enabled superpower. This has been Small Business Big AI. Thanks so much. We'll see you in the next episode.